Hello and welcome to Premier Study in Investing. It's great to have you. Thanks for stopping by.
So I'm going to tell you where we're going. We're going to be looking at a couple small cap, micro cap pharma companies that are still on the pandemic play. And then we're going to be looking at Moderna's upcoming pipeline. I think that's pretty interesting. We're going to be looking at some information that came out on a district court ruling for the data release. Some people saying 450,000 pages will be released over the next 8 months. So I'm going to show you all that. Let's start here. This is Relief Therapeutics. It's a Swiss firm. They're also partnered with an American company called NRX Pharmaceutical. This is a really nice thing done by Bob Pooler. You can find it on Relief's investor page. But he has one as recent as February 21st, 2022. And he's put out a number of these things. And so it's kind of been a growing document. It's 74 pages. And if you're interested in this company, or even if you're like me and you're having a hard time keeping up with everything that's going on, Bob puts it all together for us in a nice way. Risk-adjusted NPV per share, he puts it at 0.405 cents, and so it was trading as high as a little bit under 7 cents a share, and so he's putting it between 40 and 41 cents. That makes it a 495% upside potential. He gives the success probability of the lead project 65%. Also, I own Revive Therapeutics. They're also a very small cap company. I bought more at 18 cents, but it could have gotten it as low as even 16 cents. This is very low. And they're a very small cap company, not producing revenue. But one of the things that is a threat to these companies is one of the ones on my watch list, or someone in a thread mentioned it, was SAB. So SABS was their ticker. And this information came out on March 2nd, and then their stock got cut in half from, you can see on the right, from about we'll just call it $4.60, and it dropped down to $2, we'll call it 30 cents. That's exactly a 50% loss. And it says, SAB says the NIH in the United States discontinued phase 3 trial of their drug, SAB-185, as hospitalizations decline. Basically, this first bullet point gives it to us. It said that the National Institute of Health is closing enrollment in its active-2 trial due to low Omicron-related COVID-19 hospitalizations and death rates that have made the current study designation design statistically unworkable. So, one of the things I thought as an investor going back in Revive is their CEO was on a great call, and I'll try to find the link for that, but there was like a interview basically with a bunch of people from their staff, their executive board, and he was saying, well, we followed the big dogs of pharma, we pulled a play from their playbook, they went over to Europe, so that's why we decided to move our trial over to Turkey as well. What I found though, and this has been important, is where's the Omicron variant present? Omicron has now been detected in most countries after the variant was first detected in November 2021. In bold, it has now become the dominant variant in many countries, including Turkey. And that was as of February 15th, 2022. That came out from UNICEF. So the UN, it's the children, I can't remember what it is. But anyways, moving over, I thought this was also an interesting part. Moving over, coming now to Big Pharma, Moderna. February 18th, 2022. It says Moderna now has 5 vaccine candidates against latent viruses in development, including against cytomegalovirus, Epstein-Barr, which was interesting because that caught a lot of attention, right, as people were looking at the side effects back in 2020 and 2021, and still going, but you haven't heard about that probably very recently. And then HIV, and then HSV, which is the herpes simplex virus. You can see that here. Herpes simplex virus, and then VZV, which is the varicella zoster virus. And so I think that's chicken pox, I believe. So this is Moderna's playbook moving forward. They want to come out with, not just the one for the recent current, I'm going to still call it current pandemic, although maybe it's endemic now, but whatever. But they're planning on doing more vaccines. And my thought is really, if I was going to short a company, I would short this company. I mean, it's already come down a ton, but I just think as some of this other information comes out from these courts, it's just not going to be good for these companies. So this is Endpoint's view. And what it basically says, FDA court-mandated release of thousands of pages on Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine review. So in a second, I'm going to look at some of the documents like this one. It says labeled as a priority review request, includes more than 100 pages worth of anonymous safety-related tables or data. And so in a related article, it says FDA loses FOIA suit over Pfizer vaccine documents, must release 55,000 pages per month. Okay, so if we go over to this other article, so if we go over to the tweet from Robert F. Kennedy, he says a federal judge has rejected a bid by FDA plus Pfizer to delay court-ordered release of nearly 400,000 pages of documents pertaining to the approval of Pfizer's COVID vaccine. Moving on to the Denver Gazette. It basically says the Food and Drug Administration won't have 75 years to release thousands of pages of documents it relied on to license its COVID-19 vaccine. Instead, the federal agency will have just over 8 for a federal judge's rulings, and you go on later, they were going to produce 500 pages a month, but now the Pittman order the agency to turn over 55,000 pages a month. That means that all the Pfizer vaccine data should be public by the end of September of 2022 rather than almost in the next century, 2097. So that's good, but still that's going to take a while, and we'll look at one article real quick here to close. So if I go back to this endpoint, it's 104 pages long, and I'll tell you I scrolled through it. Basically, the first 30 pages documents local reactions, so injection site reactions for a bunch of different age groups and populations and whatever, but it's really looking at redness, swelling, pain at the injection site, any local reaction. From there on out, it's looking at systemic events, so you can see that here, onset days for systemic events, reactogenicity subset, and then it's, different age groups or different, it's like 80 pages of this type of stuff. And so on this section, it's really looking at fever, fatigue, headache, chills, vomiting, diarrhea, new or worsening muscle pain, new or worsening joint pain, any systemic events. So what I'm expecting is some of the other more healthcare professional types on YouTube, maybe Dr. Mobeen Saeed, or maybe, Dark Horse, Brett Weinstein, and his wife Heather, which I can't remember her last name, Heather, but maybe they'll kind of help us unpack some of these documents and some of this data and what it means. I'm sure they'll be doing that. I'm not going to do that for you guys today, but I think it's really interesting. There's definitely a threat for these small cap companies, even if the drugs work, that, if their trials get shut down. And I'm not selling, because like most of us, we're at, I'm at 19 cents a share on Relief. I'm at, 24 cents a share on Revive. So I'm down on both positions. But I think butylamine and Aviptidil, they look really good to me despite some of these other threats. God forbid, I really hope that we don't have like another lab problem or some, if you read Dr. Stephen Bregan and other people, they think that it's possible that it was an accidental lab leak type of thing, that it wasn't like a wet market thing. And so if something like this could happen again, if it's not possible to control some of this gain of function research, that we could have more stuff like this. Who knows what's lurking around these labs? So God forbid that any of that happens. Man, in Jesus' name, don't let it happen, I pray. But at the same time, if we do face something like that, or if we have these endemic problems, wouldn't it be great if we had fully approved, not emergency use, but fully approved host of therapeutics to be able to treat people besides remdesivir and just dexamethasone, right? And some of these other things that are basically trials, especially with breakout cases and all my friends, and everybody, So that's the basic weekend wrap up, and those are kind of some of my thoughts about what I think is coming. I don't have puts on Moderna,
But
I wouldn't think someone was crazy if they did have puts on it, even though it's come down so far. Okay, well, that's what I got. Thanks.